Block all access routes and see if he comes through blockade dash dash dash. 71. Proof of God, unknown, exhaustive search. Search every place in the universe for God and eliminate one place after another till you find God or not dash dash dash. 72. Proof of God, unknown, legal. Show that the means, opportunity, motive, and power was and is possible for God to do or have done what he did for world dash dash dash. 73. Proof of God, Fisher, 1923. Analysis of variance. The method. 8. Allows measuring the variability in experimental data and ascribing each variation to different causes. So eliminate all causes, then may leave only God as the cause of the remaining variance dash dash dash. 74. Proof of God, unknown. Analysis of covariance. Since God may not be controlled in studying the measurements taken of things in the world, so then statistical method is used to control the effects of God, i.e., mathematically. So study the world scientifically, neglecting affect of providence. Should get the same result as analysis of variance calculations if there is no God or if he does not cause some variability effects dash dash dash. 75. Proof of God, unknown, chi-square. Create theory of providence and predict expected, theoretical, frequency of certain type of miracle in the world and compare to observed frequency of miracles. X-square test if they are significantly the same. God exists if have as many miracles as expected dash dash. 76. Proof of God, unknown. Contradiction. Prove that it is contradictory to say that the world exists on its own, and so it follows that God is necessary to make it exist at all. Resolution refutation dash dash dash. 77. Proof of God, Nash. Love. God loves the world, needs it, and wants it. That is why he created it. World's nature and people are surprisingly great enough for God to love and care about them dash dash dash. 78. Proof of God, Zadat. Fuzzy logic. We can prove that the God exists by considering statements about beings which are true, with certainty or different degrees of certainty, of beings of degrees of being God, and combining them to get the degree of God that truly exists and the degree of certainty in that belief. So we are not restricted to idea of binary existence that have the God or do not have the God, and not restricted to certainty in proofs. We can use fuzzy logic by considering statements about each degree of Gods and combine them to find out which degree of God is the correct one. Use Kant's principle that a being must be consistent, i.e., not self-contradictory, and it must be an individual, i.e., be a person. Dash dash dash. 79. Proof of God, unknown, author. Mathematical calculus. Squeeze. Theorem. Maximum/minimum proof of God. Calculate the maximum and minimum of what this universe can be and see if it includes God. 9. Dash dash. 80. Proof of God, Marx, Kant, unknown. Computer simulation. Create a program and run it on a computer to show that reasoning and powers of behavior can exist which are superior to man's power of reasoning and of action. So God would be possible. For God is superior to us by definition dash dash dash. 81. Proof of God, unknown. Upgrade proof of God's existence. Just like reason that a treatment for lower animal is good for man, a higher being, so too some things that apply to man may apply to angels or God, which are higher beings. But man consumes energy to survive. So try to find a place in the universe where energy is dissipated for some unknown reason. But the angels may use higher sources of energy and be more efficient in utilizing energy. Also in release of energy. But the law of thermodynamics may not apply. Since it claims that 100% energy efficiency is not possible dash dash dash. 82. Proof of God, Maimonides, Spinoza, Marx. Negative proof. We Can know God by Maimonides' theory of negative attributes. Try to prove the existence of God by starting with the perfect being which may or may not exist. Having infinite attributes of infinite magnitude, which is partly how Spinoza saw God to be defined. And negate, remove, attributes one by one or class by class if they prevent God from existing. So may remove none and show that a perfect God exists, or eventually end up with a being which is God and just the supreme being. I.e., find out what limits a being's nature and what prevents existence and what necessarily implies existence. Marx warns that attributes must be consistent with each other. Really, he was talking about economic system. I.e., don't do it by fixing a pair of attributes at a time and so destroy other pairs already fixed. 83. Proof of God, Kant. Principle proof of God. Discover and define a principle to obtain a view of the whole or complete system, and show that it includes God necessarily as part of reality. But what principle? E.g., choose the principle that the world is perfect, and the world cannot be perfect without God ruling over it. Deterministic non-living nature is not sufficient. Nor is the greatest man or woman sufficient, example because the smartest people made big blunders in history which were not detected for hundreds or thousands of years. 84, Proof of God, Roddenberry, author. Metamorphosis proof of God. A man or several men or a woman or several women are transformed into a 10. God or gods by natural phenomena, Roddenberry, more naturally at death by leaving the body as a fetus leaves its mother's body to become more independent, author. It does not die despite cutting the umbilical cord and entering another world. 85, Proof of God, Darwin, author. Human evolution proof of God. Humanity evolves, by mutation, competition and natural selection till one of its offspring is God himself. A reversal of Darwinian theory. Going towards the end of evolutionary process rather than towards its beginning. Evolution in the service of religion not against it. 86, Proof of God, author. Engineering proof of God. The whole of humanity combined creates God by intellectual design and construction by manual labor. Is it possible? 87, Proof of God, Maimonides, Schrödinger, Born, author. The probability density function proof of God. Like an electron is more likely to be found in some orbits around the nucleus of atoms, which is given by the probability density function of the Schrödinger equation. The integral of it gives the probability of finding an electron there according to Max Born. So too the probability of finding God near a person depends on how righteous, genius, wicked, or ignorant he or she is. Probability of finding God near that person being given by the integral of the probability density function. Have different kinds of atoms or elements different in the equal number of protons/neutrons in their nucleus. Maimonides had a similar view except that we are found around God rather than vice versa. In the parable of the king, Maimonides put people all around God, from ignorant people outside the city of God to people who are the metaphysical prophets which are way inside God's palace. 88, Proof of God, author. Induction proof of God. Show that God existed at time equals 0, t equals 0. Assume that God exists at t equals n, and prove that God exists at n equals n plus 1. Then God exists. Survival of humanity would not have been possible without God. He has an important life-saving job if any one of us does. Besides great problems on Earth, also the distance from the sun is critical to us to within a few meters. Yet we survived the possibility of too much or too little radiation for thousands of years. God preserves humanity. Prove humanity is immortal so that it must exist at any moment. So it will always need a preserver. So God must exist at n equals n plus 1. 11. God may even provide the souls of children at conception or at a later time in the womb. We also need energy and resources, and there are many tragedies which could destroy us. Indeed, we have reached a point where we can destroy ourselves if God does not intervene. 89. Proof of God, author. Infinite series test of God. Prove that the evolution of the world and nature does not converge to a finite being but diverges and continuously progresses to a perfect infinite being, i.e., God. Can use the ratio test or integral test, etc. to test for the convergence of the evolutionary process, expressing it as some series of terms. 90. Proof of God, author. Structure. Infinite variety or multiple. Causality. Proof of God. Instead of a linear causal chain like St. Thomas Aquinas defining God's actions as cause number one of series of effects, define God as the cause directly of tree chain of many effects. Example: God directly causes A, X, Y, and Z. So show that such a combination of causes can only come from God. Since need a very powerful cause at the foundation, and this is a more powerful cause. Recursive cause. What is now causing proves what was causing before is also still causing. 91. Proof of God, author. Function. Infinite magnitude or degree of causality. Proof of God. Show that some effect needs a cause with infinite magnitude of power to make it exist. And we believe that only God could do that. 92. Proof of God, Spinoza, author. Infinite in composition. Proof of God. The universe will expand to an infinite size. So we'll have an infinite space-time continuum. But only God can be infinite. Spinoza saw everything as existing in God, who was a substance of infinite attributes and magnitude of attributes. 93. Proof of God, author. Function. Omni-source. Proof of the existence of God. If all causes of the existence of things or their changes, aside from free will of living things, go all to one cause, ens realissimum, instead of millions or billions, etc. of individual causes. So this single being has many kinds of effects resulting from it. So it is God. 94. Proof of God, author. Ideal humans. Proof of God. The perfect man and the perfect woman existed in history to teach about God and to 12. Sing his praise. 95. Proof of God, author. Science. Proof of God. There must exist a science of God which explains how God behaves in the world, at least in a simplified way, and give a good proof of his existence. Since God must understand his God. 96. Proof of God, author. Providence. Proof of God. The fixed end. Changing events and substances in the world must show that they are incredibly well ordered. And so must be the result of an omniscient, omnipotent, genius, saintly being. This implies that there is a parallel consciousness and a parallel acting agent who is omnipresent. So must show this. God is not omnitemporal. Since the past doesn't exist, since it is no more. And since the future is not yet lived, so it does not exist, let alone that we have freedom, limited, of choice, as do animals, so no one can know the future. But God knows the whole past, and part of the world is predestined to ensure final goal, and God is a pretty good guesser. 97. Proof of God, Einstein. Speed limit. Proof of God. If God created the world, then he would create it distributed in the universe. So calculate the maximum possible distance traveled since right after the origin of the universe in the Big Bang. General relativity may not apply at the point of origin of the universe. Proceed based on the maximum possible speed of the stars, which Einstein says is the speed of light, 300,000,000 meters per second. Roughly, both relativity theory or method of radioactive dating give over 10,000,000,000 years for the age of the universe. So project the distance to location of the Big Bang and see if enough time existed to cover that distance. This is also a test of whether relativity is correct. But Max Born says that unlike for special relativity speed limit, The theory of general relativity allows speeds faster than light, superluminal speeds. 98, proof of God, Einstein. Discovery proof of God. It is a wonder that the universe can be understood at all. According to Max Planck, the universe cannot be understood by us. Every scientist and some philosophers labor with the devotion only possible by a cosmic religious feeling faith that the universe can be understood by us, and scientists and philosophers have had great success in this regard. And if we evolved according to principles of natural selection, then humanity would not have given rise to an elite of intellectuals concerned with theoretical matters. 13. Which really is very unlikely, and it could have done without them. Even if it leads to great technology, nature did not require it or would not bring it about unless nature was truly very sophisticated indeed, and that we call God. So a critique of Darwin. Einstein's description of nature is the simplest possible theory according to him, yet his theory of relativity is far too complex for most people. But he says that it can be reduced to algebra based on what we learned from quantum mechanics, which Einstein never accepted. We could have been put in a maze that we cannot understand and fail to see means and ends and perish rapidly as a race. In fact, most people think that we do not need science and philosophy since they find it easy to accomplish their goals without them, despite great errors. 99, proof of God, Maimonides, Kant, Einstein. Freedom proof of God. Religious presupposes freedom according to Maimonides and Einstein. So prove that there is freedom in the world, at least in man and God. We must refute Aristotle's proofs against freedom of will. Einstein reward and punishment of man by God presupposes that we are free, else God would be punishing himself. Freedom is possible since events in our minds and in God's mind occur randomly and so break the law of causality. A causal chain. And we can initiate action by free will at any moment, limited only in part by our body, other people, environment, and God. So add 2 kinds of causes to the 4 kinds believed by Aristotle. Ignoring Aristotle's proofs of determinism, Kant argues in his Dialectic of Pure Reason section of his book that to resolve the antinomies, freedom is possible if we distinguish a noumenal and phenomenal part of being. Since the law of causality cannot be broken in phenomena but may be broken in noumenal realm, it seems the phenomenalists like Husserl, Heidegger, and Sartre believe that the series of phenomena is infinite and there are no noumena. Later note, no, Husserl followed Kant at first but later argued against him that the noumena is phenomenal so it can be known. 100, proof of God, Kant. Immortality proof of God. We need immortality of man for religion, otherwise it is a political commonwealth and not a religious one. Anyway, life is not worth it if God and paradise do not exist. And the whole human endeavor for thousands of years appears to be drawing us nearer and nearer to paradise. Great advances in technology, science, philosophy, and the arts. We may make ourselves immortal even by cloning or by obtaining DNA of people coated in light waves that left 14. Earth and went into space for thousands of years. The light from other stars proves that light has a long and stable life. We use light for communication and lasers for DNA testing. 15.